had a running back who ended up at Temple who had become Big East Freshman of the Year the following year. Now I really want to find.
So there's a Georgia team playing in the Skeezer Conference.
There's so many levels to this game, so many. What's good, Jack?
What's up, man?
That VHS has to be around somewhere. It's like in someone's closet. Been texting somebody on the text line because we did our segment 50 Ways to Lose a Football Game. Let me read to you this guy's submission. He goes, Elijah, on your 50 Ways to Lose a Football Game segment, I wanted to share this. I was the wide receiver coach at my old high school, Calhoun Academy, and we were playing St. Andrews in the semis. We were up 7, and they score with 6 seconds remaining. They line up to tie the game when the snap goes flying past the holder on the ground. Their kicker runs back, picks it up, and on tape you see our guys hit him as he spins with his back to the end zone. Then he just blindly throws the ball, and St. Andrews guy catches it for a 2-point conversion. So I then was like, I must obtain this footage. Please tell me you have it. He goes, man, it was 1997 VHS days. I had hoped it made YouTube at one point in time, but I'm not seeing it. Can't even find an article online from the T&D in Orangeburg. All I could find was this that shows the score. But St. Andrews.
Oh, it's a busy morning out there on the roads, and as we take a look at traffic and weather on the Wetzel's On Road Traffic Center. Oh, get ready because it's going to be a lot. Got Fernandina and St. Andrews, I-26 eastbound before St. Andrews, Mill Stream at Corley Mill Road, Mineral Springs at Laphart, St. Andrews at Harbison, Two Notch Road at South Lake, Wise Ferry at Highway 378, and Two Notch at Spears Creek Church Road. Hopefully you got all that because that's a lot of accidents today. 55 degrees with scattered showers throughout the day. Kind of the same forecast tomorrow with a high of 59 tomorrow, high of 55 today. It's traffic and weather. What's Automotive Traffic Center here on the game.
We'll be back.
More fun and frolic. Well, I'll frolic, all right.
I know, you're a frolicky kind of guy.
Tiptoe through the tulips. Gotta find that has to exist somewhere.
Oh, 9 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here. We'll put some final thoughts on the Alabama game coming up here as the show rolls along. Take a look at why South Carolina can't figure out how to close games like they did on Saturday, and also touch on what else happened around college football in week number 9. But Jack, did you stay up?
No.
For Game 3 of the World Series?
No, I wish. I'm glad I didn't, but, I mean, that game, I saw the text this morning from our brother. He said the game ended at 3. The game we're talking about, World Series Game 3, by the way, Blue Jays, Dodgers.
Yep.
Freddie Freeman, walk-off home run in the bottom of the 18th inning. I mean, that game lasted 6 hours and 39 minutes. I had a little bit of it on during Monday Night Football, but overall, yeah, just did not stay up. I mean, I was in bed probably sleeping at midnight.
I went to bed right after Ohtani's second home run.
Yeah, tie the game, right?
Yeah, that tied the game in the 7th, but I was like, I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. And when a game starts at 8 o'clock, that's just like, okay, it's going to run pretty late. And I had a kind of a feeling this one might go into extra innings, and it ended up doing that. They played an extra game, basically. They played two games in one, essentially, and Freeman got the home run there in the bottom of the 18th inning.
Of course he
did. To elevate the Dodgers 2-1 in the series as they get set for Game 4, I guess, coming up tonight. Good for Freddie. You know what I mean? Like
he's done it multiple times. He did it last year to the Yankees.
I know. And again, I'd love to still have him as a Brave. I think Matt Olson's been fine as a first baseman, really good as a first baseman actually. But like, there's just something about Freddie that's special, right? Like he was a longtime Brave. It came up through the system, and I like seeing him be successful, whether he's playing for the Dodgers or whoever. Like I'm never mad about Freddie Freeman having success.
No, neither am I. I mean, he's a great guy, great dude. So good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. And yeah, this has been actually pretty entertaining series so far. Last night was obviously the best of the 3 games, and I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the series. Both teams had to go really deep into their bullpens. Clayton Kershaw pitched the third of an inning last night.
Yeah, only 1/3 of an inning.
At some point at 2 in the morning or something.
Yeah, I wish he would pitch more. Of course, he pitches on the same night that Max Scherzer does. So
Yes.
that's a nice throwback to 2008, circa 2008 for us old baseball fans here.
I thought it was cool because they played, here's a throwback, Fox Sports Net.
Yes.
That game was on when the
Yes.
Dodgers were playing the Diamondbacks.
Yes.
And it was originally supposed to be
Greg Maddux
Greg
and Randy
Maddux
Johnson.
and Randy Johnson, which we'll talk about an all-time like pitchers duel going head-to-head. And never mind, you're going to have to get this rookie and Max Scherzer that's never made a start before, and Kershaw, who had only made 3 starts at that point in time. Well, both those guys ended up being Hall of Famers.
Oh, of course they did.
So if you were at that game, I hope you have your ticket stub still.
Hopefully.
But, yeah, so World Series rolls on. Dodgers have the 2-1 series advantage as of right now. Obviously, we got into a lot of what happened against Alabama yesterday, and I want to continue to unpack what happened from Saturday and see if our thoughts feel any different. But first, it is 9 o'clock, and as always, we kick things off with our Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up.
Time to get hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm. Sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803-ALL-9. So yesterday, being Reaction Monday, we did what we always do, and we react to the game that we saw on Saturday. And a lot of it came down to those specific moments and kind of picking apart particularly what happened at the end of the game on Saturday and how South Carolina ended up losing. Of course, Alabama goes on the long 14-play, 79-yard drive that eats up almost 8 minutes of clock, scores what at the time ended up being a game-tying touchdown, and then immediately Carolina gets the ball back with about 2 minutes to work with, and then boom, you had the fumble for Lenore Sellers, and we talked about, should you have called that play on a 2nd and 4, which Jack, myself, and I think everybody that I talked to yesterday here agreed there was nothing wrong with that call because you had 2 timeouts. You were just slightly under the 2-minute timeout at that point in time, so about 1:50 to work with. Plenty of time. You were about the 38-yard line of Sellers holds on to the ball in a 3rd and 2. So I didn't have a problem with it. I think you had everything you needed at that point in time to potentially still go down the field. And if nothing else, give yourself a field goal attempt, hopefully at the end of regulation. But credit to Deontay Lawson for a real heads-up play there, for playing to the echo of the whistle. That's the definition, by the way, of playing to the echo of the whistle for what Deontay Lawson did, because Sellers was on his way down to the ground in a pile of other players, and Deontay Lawson, who wasn't really involved in the tackle, just was in close enough proximity to be able to reach in there and rip the ball out and obviously make the play. Of course, the controversy of DQ Smith letting Jeremy Bernard score on that 3rd and 10 play. And again, important to remember, as Beamer said on Saturday, the decision to let him score does not happen until after he gets past the first down marker. If he was, dead to rights where they could have stopped him for a 4th down, we have a different conversation. But he gets past the first down marker. Alabama could have run the clock out or down to a couple seconds and kicked a very makeable field goal. And yeah, you could have theoretically blocked the field goal, but that's hard to do, especially from that short of a range. So I don't think anybody here disagreed with the idea of letting them score, putting the ball back in Sellers' hands, and trying to let him go down there and have a long scoring drive. Bill and I got in this conversation yesterday, Jack, about the criticalness of Lenore Sellers and how he fielded that kickoff. And I get it. Alabama made it a difficult ball to field. So instead of getting the ball at the potential 25-yard line on a touchback, Harbor kind of bobbles with the ball and ends up at the 9-yard line, which makes it a 91-yard. And he burned off about 5 seconds off the clock, too. We were debating yesterday. We couldn't figure out if he would have taken a knee in the end zone after he gathered the ball in, would that have been a touchback or a safety?
So I'm trying to think back on the play in my head. So
Because
the ball bounced on the ground, right?
Right.
Hit, like, he got in the end zone.
He touched it inbounds.
Oh, he touched it inbounds.
Like,
okay.
he touches it inbounds and then gathers it up in the end zone.
Was he down, though, on the knee?
No. So he runs it out.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a touchback or a safety, right?
But if he would have, when he gathered it up, if he would have taken a knee in the end zone.
Oh, if he would have taken a knee in the end zone, I think that's a safety.
Because that's what I thought.
So, and when we talk about forward momentum and all that stuff, I mean, but this is backwards momentum, I guess.
Right, because he touched it in the field of play,
Yeah.
which, by the way, it's a live ball at all times anyway in a kickoff. But since he touched it, that would count, I would think, when the ball goes back on the ground as a fumble.
But you've also got all these constraints now with, like, if you can make a fair catch at, like, the 5-10 yard line or something, right?
Sure,
like,
sure.
I mean, and it still goes out to the 20 or 25. So I don't know. I mean, how often do we see something like that? That's typically an oddity of college football right there. I don't know.
It is. I found it, and Bill and I, again, were debating this yesterday. I found an example of Vanderbilt field, the returner this last year when they played Georgia State. The returner was in the end zone, reached out and got the ball out of the field of play, brought it into the end zone, and touchdown, or took a knee, and that was a safety.
That has to be a safety.
So, and I don't know, maybe this is going to be a better question for like Jody tomorrow, because I can't find a specific rule about that. Bill called a high school referee that said he thought it was a touchback, but I'm like, okay, maybe it's different in college. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question for Jody, because we haven't gotten a lot to talk about with him, since we only go like 3 minutes with him usually. But
Sure.
I have a feeling tomorrow, and also I didn't realize this until after the game. You know, I thought Max Kelly was doing kickoffs for South Carolina. It was William Joyce.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when the first kickoff went out of bounds, I'm like, oh, man, Max Kelly kicked that out of bounds again. But no, it was William Joyce.
Yeah.
So
How many kickoffs out of bounds have they had this year, by the way?
that's like 2 or 3, I think.
It's becoming
which I think is
bit of a recurring
which
problem.
I think is it'll be another question for Jody, but I think that's probably why you see Joyce out there kicking instead of Kelly.
Yeah.
But I don't know, because Joyce shanked one too.
So now that we've had an extra day to marinate on this, like how do we feel about this loss? Like, does it feel better, worse? Like, where are we at?
You know, we had an article on Gamecock Central yesterday. Scott Davis, he's covered watched South Carolina football for like over 40 years, and he typically writes a column each week for us. And I noticed yesterday that his has caught a lot of flack from the fan base because he said it is like the worst loss of a generation. And you got fans saying, like, there are so many more worse losses than that one yesterday, or not yesterday, on Saturday. And I kind of agree. I do. I understand where he's coming from, because Scott's watched plenty of Gamecock football. He's seen terrible losses. He points that out in his article, which you should go check out on GamecockCentral.com. It came out yesterday. But that loss on Saturday, I'll say this, I still think it's the worst of the Shane Beamer era, but I also don't think it's the worst in South Carolina history. Like, there are far worse losses. The most common one I kept seeing brought up, which I think is probably the worst one, is 2013 Tennessee. You go to Knoxville and you lose that game, then you look back at it, it's like they could have gone to the SEC championship, played for a national title in that year where they did finish number 4 in the country. So, I mean, that's going to be one that probably hangs over most people's heads.
There are different types of losses. So it can often be kind of like an apples to oranges type of comparison, because you have bad losses where you just get embarrassed. Like Oklahoma embarrassed you. Ole Miss last year embarrassed you. Florida in 22 embarrassed you. Those are bad losses. There's a different type of loss on Saturday where it's like the heartbreak, the letdown kind of loss. Again, you had the students ready to storm the field because they thought you were going to upset the number 4 team in the country, and then you don't. Like, those kind of things are deflating. And I think it's hard to compare those type of losses. Because, again, like I said to open the show, we spent most of yesterday talking about those moments, right? Okay, should you have run a different play on 2nd and 4? Should you have gone forward instead of kicking the field goal? What happens if you do this? What happens if you do that? Just kind of breaking down if you don't let Jeremy Bernard score, what happens then? Like, just breaking down these specific moments because the game was so close. Those specific moments ended up being the difference at the end of the day. Like, those losses are a lot tougher to swallow because you see the pathway to how you could have won if one or two things are different.
And I agree with that. And I also agree with a lot of the sentiment from the fan base in that they don't consider this an all-time bad loss because of the season that South Carolina is having. Like, I think you can honestly argue, man, the Vanderbilt loss might be worse because you got your butt kicked by a team that you had owned for so many years, and you were ranked top 10 in the country at that point. And to have that game go down, I mean, that game was awful on all fronts for South Carolina. But I think this one feels a bit tougher just because you had Alabama on the ropes. You had them on the ropes, and you let it get away from you. You had your chances, and you just could not get the job done. And that brings me to the point. This has happened many times in the Beamer era now. This is not just a one-time thing. South Carolina's had trouble closing out games for a few years now, I think, where they have teams on the ropes, and they just cannot get the job done. And good teams always find a way to win those games. Bad teams don't. And South Carolina's had some good teams over the years and made it work, but you see it in these bad years they've had this year and then 2 years ago. There have been a few games like this where they got it in the fourth quarter, have a lead, can't finish. So that's a problem they got to figure out.
We're going to get into South Carolina's inability to close and hear what Beamer said after the game about that. Coming up next as the extra point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry on your Tuesday here on The Game. Tyler Head here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. I remind you all the time, and I'm happy to remind you again, you need to be on the lookout for things around your home that are a little bit off or odd. Things like cracks in your exterior brick, cracks in walls or above windows and door frames, doors or windows that might be sticking, uneven or bouncy floors, or cracks over your garage door. If you notice any of these problems with your home, you could have serious foundation issues, and that's where our friends at Canty Foundation Specialist come in. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfix.com. They'll send a professional out to your home to evaluate your foundation issues and get them fixed so you and your family can live worry-free going forward. Do not let your foundation issues get worse and worse because that makes it a whole lot harder to fix. Go online to cantycanfix.com and schedule an appointment today. Let Canty Foundation Specialist help you out with your foundation problems. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher with you on your Tuesday here on The Game. Our guy Kevin Miller weighs in and says, can't fair catch a ball that hits the ground, so it would have been a safety. Harbor touching the ball in the field of play eliminated the possibility of a touchback. So I was right. It would have been a safety.
I mean, makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And here's the thing. I searched high and wide for this yesterday. I could not find the specific instance in the college rule book to differentiate between the two. This is a very hard rule to find. I found some examples of it, but not one that fit exactly to what Harbor did. But I'll trust Kevin Miller on this one.
Yeah, I would trust him too. I mean, well, he's right about the whole fair catch thing. I mean, that makes sense for sure. And again, I was just bringing it up as somewhat of an example just because it's in the same area. I mean, like, I don't know how that, it's weird. But anyway, yeah, just an odd sequence in that game for sure.
Well, it all encompassed the end of the game, which unfortunately South Carolina was not able to pick up the victory against number 4 Alabama. And Coach Beamer on Saturday after the game talked about his team not being able to finish.
Yeah, obviously a gut-wrenching loss. I know there's a lot of fans listening on the radio right now, hit it home, and just wanted to thank them for their performance today. They were amazing. This place was as electric as anywhere in America today, and we're a true home field advantage, so thanks to them. Hurt for our players. Had the number 4 team in the country on the ropes. You're leading a game down 8, going into or up 8, going into the fourth quarter. We got to be able to go finish and give them credit. They made the plays in the fourth quarter to finish, and we didn't. And that's the disappointing thing. It's the game's right there. I told the team at halftime, this game's right here for us to go take it over. And felt like we had going into the fourth quarter, but we didn't finish. And it comes down to them making plays, making more plays than we did, and that's what hurts.
Unfortunately, we've had this same conversation about this team several times this year. Now, this was a different instance because you did have a lead right there up until about 2.5 minutes to go, but still, you didn't finish this game. You were leading in the fourth quarter against Missouri and still had the ball multiple times, only down 6 points in the fourth quarter of that game. 7-point game until the late stages against LSU. It just, again, in a majority of these games, you've just not been able to close it out and finish. And it's not just this year. This has been a thing that's happened consistently over the Beamer era. Let's go back to the Florida game 2 years ago. 10-point lead. Couldn't finish that game. You had a 14-3 halftime lead against Georgia in Athens in 2023. Couldn't finish that game either. Like, this is kind of a thing that unfortunately I feel like you had a 17-point lead over LSU a year ago. Now, again, there's a lot of reasons why that game went sideways, but still, like this has become kind of a thing, unfortunately.
It's just part of the program at this point. It goes well beyond Shane Beamer too. This is stuff that's gone on for years and decades almost at South Carolina. Every team kind of has these games at one point or another, especially the teams that aren't always that good. They have a few of these close calls where they're looking like, okay, it's going to be an upset, and then that what Alabama showed me on Saturday, again, I think they're going to be right in the mix to win a national championship this year. When they went down on that near 8-minute drive, scored the touchdown to get within 2, and then to get the 2-point conversion to tie the game, that's championship level football right there. That is what championship teams do when their backs are up against the wall. You got the road environment as loud as it was after that Sellers touchdown, and then you go up and go down and score. That's a really impressive thing for Alabama to do, especially on a day where Ty Simpson didn't play his best. Jeremy Bernard really balled out at the end of this game. I mean, think about it. He scored both of his touchdowns in the fourth quarter of this game. Alabama didn't do a ton on the ground, but made the plays when they needed to, and that's the difference ultimately.
I look across at Alabama, and look, we talked about this going to the weekend. Your hope was that Alabama was not going to be the best version of themselves, and they weren't. They looked like a team that had just played 4 straight ranked opponents in 4 pretty tough games, all things considered. Alabama did not have an A-plus effort on Saturday, but they found a way to win. And that's been a signature of Alabama since Saban got there over 15 years ago now. Even when they don't play their best, they find ways to win. Unfortunately for South Carolina, in most of the big games they play, if they don't play their absolute best, they don't win. Carolina rarely wins on like a B- type of day. You know what I mean? And that's that next level you have to get to as a program, where even when you're not having your best day, you still find other ways to win the football game, and more often than not, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you made Alabama make so many mistakes in that game, and that's what you needed. And you had the lead, and you had momentum in your favor, and you're at home. It's like all the factors you needed, you had going your way. But again, you can't get the job done for whatever reason, whether it's, and it's not even just the sequences at the end of the game. Like, everyone's going to look at the touchdown that Alabama scored and the fumble that Sellers had at the end of the game, and rightfully so. But let's just go back to some other moments in this game where it's like South Carolina missed a field goal from 47 yards. They couldn't get in the end zone on 2 red zone drives that went 14 and 15 plays. There was a holding penalty on Tree Babalati that got a touchdown called back. Rasul Faison couldn't catch a ball early on in this game that led to a pick 6. I mean, all those moments right there. South Carolina probably should have won this game, maybe by double digits. It's just when you add all those mistakes up, it's like you get the result that you do by the end of the game, and there's no coming back from it.
And with what this season has been, even winning Saturday would not have suddenly made this like a great season, right? Your season was already kind of off the rails. That would have gotten you one step closer to bowl eligibility, but for at least a week would have given you something to feel really good about. Because here's the thing. Let's look at your 3 wins. You beat Virginia Tech. Well, they fired their coach. You beat SC State. It's an FCS team. It's what you're supposed to do. And you beat Kentucky, who's the worst team in the SEC right now. And unfortunately, Carolina isn't that much higher above them. You don't really have any wins to hang your hat on as of right now to feel really, really good about. That at least would have given you that. Would have given the fan base something to like, hey, that was at least cool. You know, like in 2019 when that team beat Georgia. Like, yeah, that wasn't a great season, but still, you had a signature win that year that you can at least look back and reflect on fondly, and you had that opportunity against Alabama, and just right there at the end, couldn't make it happen.
The only silver lining I can take away from it, as we kind of close our thoughts on this game, is you head into these next few games. Ole Miss this weekend, A&M 2 weeks after that. You got to find a way to win one of these games, Tyler, because if you want to make a bowl game, it starts with winning one on the road. Can you get it done? I mean, I don't know what the odds are going to be, but I'll say this. I feel better about this team getting it done now than I did before the Alabama game.
Yeah, because you saw more positive things out of the offense. All that being said, the offense still only scored 22 points, which is only one more than your prior record under Shula, which was 21 against Kentucky a few weeks back. And here's the thing. That you're going up against better defenses, I feel like, in Ole Miss, and definitely a better defense in A&M. Ole Miss, that's debatable compared to Alabama. I don't think 22 points is going to get it done, considering what those teams are capable of on offense, and I don't think you're going to get them in as bad a shape as you had Alabama this past weekend.
Definitely not. Maybe A&M because it's an early game, but I have been so wrong about Texas A&M this year. So
that's a physical team.
I'm an A&M apologist right now because it has been. I mean, that game on Saturday in Death Valley, they proved me wrong on so many fronts. But yeah, I think South Carolina is starting to figure things out offensively, but they still need the breakout performance to really get to where they can really upset a team and go toe-to-toe with a team like Ole Miss that does score a lot and plays good defense.
I think to beat Ole Miss this weekend, and we'll get more into that game as the week rolls along, I think you got to score in the 30s. Like, I really think you have to score at least 30 points to beat that team.
I feel like that's probably fair, and that would be pretty good against that defense. So
Yeah. So, again, we'll get into that as the week goes along. But a lot of things that we didn't get a chance to get to yesterday from week number 9 of college football, which we'll get to coming up next as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry on your Tuesday break here on the Extra Point on the Game.
Everyone knows that AAA Heating and Air has the best HVAC replacement options in the Midlands with their guaranteed financing. No payments or interest for 12 months and a 15-year parts and labor warranty. They're hard to beat when you need a new system. But did you know they also have great deals for repairs? That is right. If your system is broken and you're strapped for cash, AAA Heating and Air can help you out. They'll get your repairs done with payment options for up to 12 months and no credit check required. So if you're the homeowner, all you need is a valid bank account. That's it. That's all you need. So don't wait. Give AAA a call today at 803-677-1500. Again, that is 803-677-1500. Tell them that you heard about them on 107.5 The Game. Get your comfort back on track. AAA Heating and Air. Comfort you can trust.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you here on your Tuesday on The Game. We focused so much on South Carolina and Alabama yesterday. Didn't get a chance to dive into a lot of the other things that happened around college football, specifically the SEC on Saturday. Jack, are you a believer in playoff Vanderbilt? Because we're getting closer to it, man. They survived another test, this time to a pretty highly ranked, or number 15, I guess, on Saturday, Missouri team, 17-10 in Nashville, and they still only have one loss.
Guys, it's starting to the chips are starting to fall. It is. This is a conversation I never thought in my life we would have, but here we are. I'm a believer, man. I think this team's legit. They're good, and I know it's Missouri, not the craziest opponent. If they had beaten Alabama again, then I'd be like, okay, this team can go out there and do anything. But beating Missouri at home, ranked as high as they are right now. I mean, they got Texas on the road this weekend. That's going to be.
They can beat Texas.
They can beat Texas, but going to Austin will be a little bit tricky. Got to be careful on the road. The game I'm really looking forward to on the schedule for Vanderbilt, Tennessee at the end of the year in Knoxville. Dare I say it right now, is that college game day that week? I mean,
it should be.
It probably should be. It is going to have a lot at stake, and I really hope Tennessee keeps it. I hope Vanderbilt and Tennessee keep it up, because then we're talking about who wins that game. Probably goes to the SEC championship, I would imagine, right? I mean, might be tough for Tennessee with 2 losses, but
yeah. Well, so A&M is still undefeated.
Bama's undefeated too.
Bama's undefeated in conference play. So if they keep winning, there's your conference championship, no doubt. But this could be very interesting from the standpoint of Tennessee could potentially play their way into the playoff, and Vanderbilt could secure a playoff spot. But here's actually the thing. Vanderbilt could go into that game with house money, right? Because they only have one loss, that being to Alabama, and that's a pretty darn good loss, all things considered. They play Texas this weekend, which, again, tricky going on the road, but very winnable. They get Auburn and Kentucky after that. Vanderbilt's better than both those teams. Vanderbilt could go into the last week of the regular season 10-1. I don't know, maybe you're top 5 by that point in time, knowing even if they lost to Tennessee, they would still be in. Think about that.
So I want to take a look at I know we're talking about other games, but that brings up something interesting that we haven't really talked about this year. And the first college football playoff rankings don't come out until I think it's next week, if I'm not mistaken.
It'll be, is it next week? I think it's on the 4th on Tuesday. So, I believe right about the time that men's basketball tips off,
yes,
it'll be the first playoff rankings.
Yeah, so right now, as it stands, so what do we think for the playoff picture? We got Ohio State. Let's say that Ohio State's your Big Ten champ.
Yep.
SEC, A&M, or Alabama. But both those teams are probably, unless something crazy happens with A&M.
Yeah, if they both keep winning,
both teams should be getting in.
Yeah.
Georgia should get in. Indiana should get in. So the top 5 is already secured. Oregon, probably going to get in.
Probably. I don't see any reason why Ole Miss shouldn't be in at this point.
They should. I mean, Ole Miss has got what? Carolina, Mississippi State, Citadel.
And somebody else in there, too. But they
should be in.
Should probably win all those
Georgia
games.
Tech can probably afford 2 losses at this point, and they're going to get Georgia at the end of the year. But that game's at Mercedes-Benz. Am I right?
That is because they have one home game a year at the Benz. They've opted to use this year for the Georgia game, but they've got NC State, Boston College, and Pitt in the next 3 games.
Jeez,
I don't think they should. They might trip on one, but even still, they're in the driver's seat in the ACC. They're likely going to play for the ACC championship game, except Pitt is 4-1. So if you trip on Pitt, you could lose your spot in the conference championship that way. And then, again, the Georgia matchup looks like it's going to be a top 10 game. So that, even in losing, probably doesn't hurt you a ton.
No.
So what somebody laid it out the other day, we could have 6 or 7 brand new playoff teams this year.
Yeah,
which is insane.
And here's the thing: I'm looking at the AP top 25, and that's the only really basis that we have to measure where teams are at. But I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, who's got 1, maybe 2 losses at most, right? And I think you could say there are 17 teams in the top 25. The top 17 teams are probably all right now in the mix to make the playoff. Oklahoma is like where you kind of like Oklahoma, Missouri, both have 2 losses so far. I think they're each going to drop another, and I don't feel confident in saying that Texas, Michigan, teams like that are going to be able to continue to play well enough. So I think this is really, and you got Memphis all the way at 25, or Houston. Well, no, yeah, Memphis, because I thought Houston was still in the American for some reason, but you got Memphis as the G6 representative, I would think, right now. Things are looking pretty, tight race in this, where you have a lot of teams that are going to be battling for those 7 spots that are going to be available at the end of the year, and as far as at-large bids go.
This is going to be a fun final month of the regular season, man.
It's going to be nuts.
This is going to be crazy.
It's going to be nuts. And I don't believe we got into a scenario last year where a 2-loss team got left out. Am I thinking right on that? Because typically it was a lot of the 3-loss teams that got left out. Like Miami had 3 losses, right?
Yeah.
I think they did.
Hold on, let me go back and look.
But, there were teams that I think pretty much all of the 10-2 teams that didn't get to the bowl or to the conference championship game, I think they pretty much all got in.
Yeah, so Miami was 10-2.
Okay.
But they lost their last regular season game to Syracuse and didn't make the conference championship. BYU was 10-2, but the Big 12 was a 1-bid league.
Yeah.
That as far as Power 4, those are the only 2-loss teams that did not get in.
So wait, was Miami 10-1 going into the Syracuse game then?
Yes.
Oh shoot. Okay.
So all they had to do was beat Syracuse, and they would have played for the conference championship. And even then, probably could have made an argument to be in regardless, because they would have played SMU. Let's say SMU beats them. I think Miami still probably gets in. Now, again, how you shuffle the deck on who gets in and who gets out at that point in time, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Indiana doesn't get in at that point. Again, we're splitting hairs here. But, yeah, Miami and BYU, the only 10-2 teams as far as Power 4 conferences go that didn't get in.
Interesting.
Crazy.
Interesting.
And I think we're going to be in for an even crazier November this year. But I am here for it.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Like, can you imagine we get Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt, BYU, teams like that into the playoff. Indiana again. It may not get the most viewership, but I'll tell you what, man, I'm here for it. I am really here for it.
I don't care about viewership. I don't care what the networks get out of their numbers. Give me good football.
Yeah. It may not be the most popular teams, but who cares? I'd rather have the best teams in there rather than let's get the big name brands into the playoff. I really hope that's something that we don't have to even discuss at the end of the year. Like, man, this team got screwed, left out of the playoff for some big name brand, which we saw a lot in the 4-team playoff, but I think it's a little bit easier to avoid now in the 12-team format.
Well, you're more flawed when you have 12 teams. So the teams are getting left out. Again, we're talking about having 2 and 3 losses anyway. So it's a little bit harder to be like, that team definitely deserved to be in. It's like, well, you shouldn't have lost 2 or 3 games then.
Is there a sleeper you have right now to win the national championship?
Sleeper to win the national championship? See, that's hard because
that is hard. But I think it's that open to where somebody could do it.
You have to be a special type of team to navigate multiple games. Like, it's not to say it's not hard, because it is hard. Winning 1 game in the playoff is one thing. Winning 3 or 4 in a row to win a national championship is difficult. Now, like, I guess given the history of the program, saying Indiana is a legit national championship contender is like, okay, surprising. But like the way they're playing football this year, it's not. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I honestly think Tech, maybe BYU could probably be that team that would go on a deep run and maybe go off to the national championship. I don't know, but Vanderbilt, if Vanderbilt can get through this final month with only one, without any more losses, let's say they go 11-1, make it potentially to the conference championship, even if they don't. I mean, shoot, can you imagine a home playoff game at that stadium? I mean, that would be. I'm really excited for when December gets here and seeing what the bracket looks like, because this is going to be nuts.
It's going to be a lot of fun. What's also going to be fun is hopefully men's basketball this year. Had an exhibition game on Sunday. We'll get into that and hear what Coach Pierce had to say afterwards. Coming up next, By the way, your next chance to win $1,000 in our national cash contest coming up in mere seconds as the extra point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry on your Tuesday on the Game.
You know, in a real world, in the regular season, you play some bye games, and you play a team that you think you should beat, right? And you play poorly, so you end up making a play to win it at the end, and that's what everyone says, right? Well, we learned the lesson with a win rather than a loss. It'll be good. We needed to go that way. Well, this is no different than that. Since it doesn't count, that it might as well work in a way that we can really drive those points home.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you here on your Tuesday on the Game. That, of course, was the voice of Lamont Paris head coach of South Carolina men's basketball, talking about what he learned from their exhibition game on Sunday as they took on NC State, a very good NC State team at that, up in Greensboro, and fell short 88-86 for what was the last-second three-pointer, right?
Mm-hmm.
That NC State hit there at the buzzer.
Yep.
But still, like preseason football and all that kind of stuff, it's about learning, it's about teaching and all those kind of things. And I've never heard Lamont Paris so excited talking about his team in the couple years that he's been here. He seems to think they have something good this year.
And I'll tell you what, I feel the same way as LP. Like, my tune has shifted on this team completely. Seeing them play, I know it's one game, but let's keep in mind, you said it, Tyler. NC State is no bad team. I mean, they're a near top 25 team. They were the first team left out of the AP poll with, I think it was 101 votes. So technically they're the 26th best team in the country right now. Picked fourth in the ACC, which we know how good that conference can be in men's basketball. I think South Carolina played really well in this game. Shot the ball efficiently. You got to clean up the turnovers, 10 of them in the second half. That kind of led to your demise a little bit. And a lot of them were on just, you got to make better passes. I mean, don't throw that pass right to the, baseline and because a guy's right there waiting to snag it and steal it. So plays like that, I think they'll get cleaned up. And the three-point shooting was good in this game. I mean, a lot went well for South Carolina that you go out here, you score 86 points when this team could not really do that consistently last year at all. Mm-hmm. They got more shooters this year. It's one game, but it was against a quality opponent that you took down to the wire, had an 11-point lead on. I feel like South Carolina can do something this year.
I think everybody was very intrigued to see the highlights of Eli Ellis in this game. Gets 23 points, 7 of 10 from the field, 5 of 7 from three-point range, which is something that he's very, very good at. And look, this is a guy we've been hearing about for years, right? We've seen his highlights, been committed for a while. I can't remember a guy, maybe besides Conmore Boyles, that we've been as excited to get in here and see what he's capable of doing once he finally takes the court for Carolina. And again, on Sunday was really, really good. Do we need temporary expectations, or was that just like, hey...
Temper them a little bit. Like, don't, like... I'm saying I think they're going to be good this year.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just based off of one game. And don't take this to the grave saying they're going to be an NCAA tournament team this year. That's only the best 68 teams get in. And I can't for sure say if South Carolina is going to be one of them. What I can say is that I do think this team, with the non-conference schedule they have, they were in so many close games last year, Tyler, in non-conference play, to where they were down, I think, to Presbyterian for most of that game, and then came back late in the second half. And then SEC play, we know, was a gauntlet, and you really got beat up badly during that stretch. But you had a lot of close games in that one, and I think that's going to be something that is different this year, is that this team did not have the shooters that they do now. And even the guys that didn't play particularly great, like, Mongolian Mike, Norden Kapich, another guy that I think could do some good stuff. Miles Studi went 0 of 4 from three-point range in this game. You're going to need those guys this season, and I think they're going to be able to step up when the moment comes, because there will be plenty of moments for those guys to go out there and shoot well. But I feel good about this team. Michi back, Eli Ellis back. I mean, this is a pretty good team they got here right now, I think.
Well, they get it rolling next week, 1 week from today, taking on NCA&T over there at Colonial Life Arena. That'll tip off, leave at 7 o'clock. And again, it's a critical year for Lamont Paris. Like, he needs this year to be a vast improvement from a year ago, because again, you have a athletic director that did not hire you. You've now missed the tournament 2 out of your first 3 seasons. Like, you got to get some kind of semblance of foundation back under this program this year to keep this Lamont Paris era going, in a lot of people's opinions.
Just saying, the last time men's basketball was good, football was bad. Football's bad right now. Men's basketball, they looked pretty good the other night against NC State, if you know what I'm saying here. I seen them with my own eyes. I wish other people could see it too, because I know the game wasn't broadcasted, but I got a funny feeling about them. I do. I think they're going to be able to handle their business in most of non-con, and then who knows? I think you probably need 6, 7, 8 wins in conference play.
6, 7?
6, 7. You probably need that many wins in conference play, and I think South Carolina's going to be able to steal some games over teams that maybe you just thought, man, they're not going to beat them, but we'll see.
We're counting on men's basketball to get men's sports rolling off better in 26 than 25, because this has been a bad year for men's sports.
Save men's sports, please.
Yes, please.
Come on. It needs to be better.
25 was rough. Coming up, hour number 2, Jeremy Smith of the Garnet Trust going to jump in with us for the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating, as your Tuesday rolls along here on The Game. It's all right here for our friends over at Twin Peaks. Friday is Halloween, one of the funnest days of the entire year, and you can have fun all week long with our friends over at Twin Peaks for the leather and lace costume party as spooky season reaches its peak. Now through Halloween, you can celebrate over at Twin Peaks, where you can score king-size specials all week long and block your calendar for a sweet treat when the Twin Peaks girls serve you in their most scandalous costumes that they have. Also, sports going on. Yesterday was the sports equinox. You had Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, all taking place in one day, and all that great sports action can be taken in with our friends over at Twin Peaks with TVs as far as the eye can see, tons of delicious food, and, of course, those 29-degree draft beers. All this and more with our friends over at Twin Peaks. And if you're in Columbia, right down the street from us here in the Vista. All right, 10 o'clock. Welcome in. Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. It's our head, Jack Felcher, Chris Clark, hanging out with you on your Tuesday. Jeremy Smith of the Garnet Trust joining us in studio here for a little bit. Jeremy, good to see you as always. How are we doing, man?
Doing good, doing good. How you been?
Doing well. Unfortunately, the season hasn't been what we've wanted up to this point, but we're making it through as best we can at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Welcome to the new world of college football, where everybody is on a much more even playing field now, which does make it more exciting to watch. But there's going to be weeks that teams don't produce like the fans want, and we go away a little frustrated. But it is where we are, and I do think this team is very close to breaking it open.
Did you have Indiana and Vandy in your preseason top 10?
I had no idea they were going to be this good, or at least have the record that they have.
Well, Indiana possibly could have been believable based off last year, but the Vandy thing, nobody saw this coming. I mean, last year was cool, upset over Alabama, some cool wins, but nobody saw this, right?
No, absolutely not. I mean, they're very, very disciplined. We talk about that all the time. They definitely don't have the most talented roster in the SEC by any stretch of the means, but I do think they are. Coach Lee has done just a fantastic job of just teaching them discipline, and they just all seem to be on the same page with everything. And obviously, they're hungry. I mean, Vandy's been the doormat of the SEC for so stinking long. I think Coach Lee is getting them to think a little differently about that, and it's starting to show in the win column.
I have a question for all y'all. Let's take a poll.
Okay.
All right, so we have a lot of big jobs already open, and, I mean, probably more to come, right? Like, I know Florida State and Wisconsin, to name a couple, they've punted for now until end of season. It seems like, from what's been reported, Wisconsin's strategy is the whole, let's keep our coach and invest in NIL and building up the roster. Florida State, I don't know what their plan is.
Too much money to pay with that buyout, maybe. I think that's maybe why these teams haven't. Yeah, because it should have happened by now, right?
$100 million for Norvell and his staff is what they're saying. That'd be like the all-in cost. And I don't know. Maybe he's got. I don't know how good of a job Jimmy Sexton did with his contract. I don't even know if Jimmy Sexton is a Norvell. I assume he's like everybody almost.
It's safe to assume that he's everybody's agent until proven otherwise.
Well, Brian Kelly had Trace Armstrong. He's like one of the few guys.
Lane Kiffin has
he's
Sexton.
a Jimmy.
He's Jimmy guy.
Yeah.
But my question is, so Clark Lee, right? He's being thrown around for some of these jobs. I haven't really seen him come up at Florida because it seems like they're overly focused on Lane Kiffin. I'm sure they've got others. But LSU is Clark Lee's been thrown around for that job. I haven't really seen him come up at Penn State. It's really LSU. But if you're Clark Lee, we just saw Kurt Signetti at Indiana re-up with them. And basically before he had a chance for more of these jobs to open, Penn State was the big one that was kind of linked to him. But he could have been in the mix at some of these others that are open or will open. LSU, that maybe that's the Kurt Signetti landing spot. He's already signed a massive deal or agreed to a massive deal with Indiana. If you're Clark Lee, do you cash in right now if you can get a big job like an LSU? I don't know if they want to hire Clark Lee. They probably are going to need to go hire somebody who's more established, but let's say in theory they did. Would you leave? Because Diego Pavia is not going to get a 12th year, it appears.
We don't think.
Don't rule it out.
Yeah,
we can't rule it out.
Don't rule it out until it's...
Yeah, listen, he's made it this far.
But you've built at Vandy, like you've built it up. Do you cash in? If you're Brent Key at Georgia Tech and you can go get a bigger job with what you've done, Buster Faulkner, his OC, is getting some love. Like, could he jump up and get a bigger job? Haynes King, who's been great, probably should get more Heisman love, to be honest with you, for an undefeated team. Like, do you go cash in now, or do you stay put?
Definitely stay put. I mean, it's his alma mater. He's got a much longer runway at Vanderbilt than he would at LSU or some of these other big schools that expect to be in the playoffs every year. I would definitely stay put.
And Brent Key's alma mater, too, Georgia Tech.
Yep.
Like, why, you brought it up, Jeremy, like, why ruin a good thing that you have there at Vanderbilt? Like, that's his school. That's all he knows. So I think this is probably his dream job, right? And look at the expectations at Florida, at LSU. Like, you get fired there in 2-3 years if things don't go well. And That's just something that, and it's great to be a fired head coach in the SEC because look at all the money you make. Look at Brian Kelly right now with all the money he's going to be making. But it would just be, I just think it'd be crazy for these guys to leave the schools that they're at right now, especially since it's their alma maters. And I mean, the expectations are not the exact same, even though they're both doing well right now.
Well, that's the tricky thing about this coaching carousel, and there's so many layers to this, but 3 of the biggest names that are on people's hot boards, Clark Lee, Brent Key, and Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, are all having success at their alma maters. All those schools seem to be dedicated to helping those guys out and giving them as many resources they can to where, yeah, maybe 10 years ago it would have been a no-brainer. Yeah, go take the LSU job, go take the Florida job or whatever, but those guys are succeeding at places you don't traditionally succeed at and seem to have what they need to hopefully continue that. I don't know if any of those guys are going to want to leave those places.
Well, I mean, you look at, like, if you look at the schools who are have fired coaches that have had a lot of success, I personally think James Franklin had a lot of success. You know, when you look at his record, you know, he was there over a decade, right? You might say, well, he never won a national title. True. He won what, Tyler? 1 Big Ten championship, I think.
Yeah, and of course, 4-21 against top 10 teams.
I get all that. But if you're Penn State, if you're LSU, which Brian Kelly, you know, it went fine-ish. It wasn't great this year. Certainly was not great. Didn't live up to their expectations that he set or their fan base or their administration set, that the national media set. If you're a school like that, it seems like they're trying to go, we need to hire a championship-winning coach. All right, well, good luck with that. You know, because how many active FBS head coaches even have a national championship? 2, 3? Dabo Swinney, Kirby Smart, Ryan Day.
Ryan Day, yeah.
Are any of those leaving? Probably not.
No.
And so now you're going out, we need a championship coach. Well, you're like, your pool is a bunch of guys that maybe they've won like a G5 championship. Maybe they've won a conference title. Even the hottest name on the coaching carousel, guy that probably anybody would like to have, seems like Florida, maybe LSU would like to have, is Lane Kiffin. I think we said this yesterday. And look, if I'm an administrator, I would have Lane Kiffin high on my list if I needed a head coach for good reason.
Yep.
He's done really good things at Ole Miss. He hasn't won a conference title. He hasn't won a national title. He won a couple conference titles at FAU.
Yeah, Conference USA.
And you might, so you're kind of banking on, all right, if we plug this guy in to a school that has more resources, he will win. And maybe that's true. You know, that's kind of what you try to do with Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
Hey, our last 3 coaches won national championships at LSU. Even the guy that we fired won a national championship, but then he fell off. So now we need to bring in a championship-winning coach. Well, hey, let's bring in Brian Kelly, right? Because he almost got there. He made a national title game with Notre Dame. He just needs more resources. He needs the ability to not have academic restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
This will work, and it didn't work. You know, so I mean, it's tough. You know, when you fire a coach, there comes a time where, if you're an administration, like, it is time to make a change. This was probably one of them. But for some places, you know, the tension that's existing now, and it's not just because of buyouts and stuff, that's a factor, but it's just, can you hire a coach who's going to be better than your last coach if it's not, like, completely evident you need a change?
Mm-hmm.
But some people may say, well, Penn State, they had to make a change. They lost 3 straight games, blah, blah, blah. But that was, like, the worst stretch of the Franklin era. It's hard to know. Like, it's easy to see if something's gone bad, but it's hard to tell if it's gone bad, like, permanently or if it's fixable. You know, that's the problem going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, man. You know, here's the discussion now. I mean, all these jobs opening up. I mean, let's look at the best ones. Probably. I mean, do we consider LSU the best one? Probably. I mean, Jeremy.
Absolutely.
What would your top 3 jobs?
Top 3 jobs, I would say, is LSU.
Mm-hmm.
I would think Penn State should be up there pretty high too, and I mean Florida I would normally say is 3, but man, they just are churning through coaches with, you know, no time to establish themselves. Excuse me, in the NIL world that we are in, it's so difficult. I don't know that. I mean, probably those. The LSU won, and then there's a big gap, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you.
What can you tell us about the NIL situations at those places that you're aware of?
So we have a great question. So LSU's doing a fairly good job. I think that we're in this new era where the school can revenue share, if you will. That's what it's being called when it's really not fully revenue sharing. But anyway, they can dole out $20.5 million to athletes on campus directly from the institution. That's only going to, using football as an example, that is only going to get to a certain point of what is totally budgeted for schools. And I can tell you right now that every single school in the SEC is going to need to spend considerably more than what they're going to be allocated through revenue sharing. And so it's going to be an interesting cycle for 2026 because the new rules that are in place that all deals above the cap have to be tied to a business activation is trying to see if that money is going to flow directly through businesses or if the schools or the collectives or the donors are just going to, put a middle finger up to the CSC and NIL Go and say, okay, well, there's no rules. I mean, you've given us guidelines. There's no penalties if we do X, Y, or Z. So how is that going to happen? And if you do come after us, we're going to sue you for antitrust. I mean, there's just so much everyone doesn't know, but LSU has a really good setup there for NIL wise. Florida was been behind, but I think they are going very, very high in that space for 2026 on their spend for football. And Penn State is doing really well. Penn State just has a little bit of a different philosophy than a lot of other schools when it comes to NIL. And that might have hurt them a little bit on the recruiting trail, but, they have the money that they need to succeed as well.
So let's ask the question that's on everybody's mind, and we'll probably have to unpack this a little bit more after the break here because we're got a couple more minutes. But how do you feel about where you're at with Garnet Trust in South Carolina right now? Give us a quick rundown just on, a refresher, if you will.
Yeah.
On how some of these things, the changes that have gone in recently, like how are things going?
Yeah, and so we're back to re-educating. I think a lot of people just assume that this revenue sharing piece is going to cover all costs for NIL, and that's not the case. I think asking donors to continue to give their hard-earned money to NIL is dying very quickly. We have a great group of donors that give very low dollar amounts, $10, $25 a month. That gives them access to things that we appreciate grossly. It allows us with that to give almost 100% of the money that comes in to the athletes. It helps offset just a few of our operational costs as well, but we do some things for our members. But the education piece is back to where we are because it has to be above that cap. And so we're really working hard on trying to team up with businesses locally that would actually be a part of our business membership program that we would then turn and use athletes to market their business through social media, in-store appearances, et cetera. And finding that revenue stream is going to be crucial to us. We also are partnering with businesses who, let's say a credit card company, if you want to get your credit card processing changed over to the vendor that we're partnered with, they're going to give us back some of that money that they make, and then we're going to turn around again and use the athletes to go market for your business for switching over to their credit card company. So there's ways that we can do it that don't affect the personal pocketbook, if you will, of the fan or the donor, but we're trying to really focus in on the business side and the partnership side within businesses because again we have to get a lot of money above the cap for football to stay competitive.
We'll keep this conversation going on the other side as the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling Heating rolls along on your Tuesday here on The Game.
All right, everyone, let's tell you about our friends over at Krantz Cooling and Heating since 1983. They've been helping families and businesses all around the Midlands with any of your HVAC needs. Justin Krantz, their general manager, does a great job. Like I said, they've been around since 1983 as a family-owned business. I've trusted them to come out to my home. So is Wes. They can come out to yours, help you with any of your HVAC needs. Installation, maintenance, repairs. You can join the Krantz Club to make sure that you're on top of any repairs that you may need at your home. Go check out all of their 5-star Google reviews. Go to their website at krantzcooling.com. That's Krantz, cooling with a K, krantzcooling.com, or you can give them a call, 803-672-3224. That's HVAC maintenance, repairs, and installation. As the seasons are changing here and it's getting colder, turning your heat back on, you want to make sure that your system's running in tip-top shape. Team over at Krantz Cooling and Heating can do it for you. krantzcooling.com.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Garden Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. It's all right, Chris Clark, Jack Beltry along with you on your Tuesday. Jeremy Smith of the Garden Trust hanging out with us here on the show as well. And we got in there talking a little bit about Carolina and where everything's at with NIL. And this being a difficult season, as we talked about to start the show, a lot of people, you'll see it on social media and stuff like that, saying, hey, I'm not going to give any more money until certain things change, whether it be offensive coordinator, other coaching staff changes, and all that kind of stuff. From a feedback standpoint, What is a season like this like from y'all's perspective in terms of people talking about what they like and don't like and how they feel like, because, again, people have power now when it comes to giving to have some semblance of control. So what's that like from y'all's perspective?
Yeah, I'd say it's not been great for us overall, but I get it. I get the sentiment that people get frustrated that they're providing money for a product that is not fulfilling its so-called expectations. Again, I just continue to go back to this is a very even playing field now in college football, to where an injury on an offensive line or a running back or heck a quarterback for one game, how that can really hurt their overall record of a team. And we've had some bad luck this year, and I know that the team hasn't done what everyone expected. I think everybody inside the football facility would tell you the same exact thing. But it's just we're very much in a very even playing field with the rest of the teams in the league and around the country. And to Chris's point a few minutes ago when he talked about bringing in these championship coaches, is I think it's going to be really, really, really hard for a coach to live up to the expectations that an LSU fan base might have, or a Penn State or a Florida fan base might have, just because of what I just said. I think fans are going to have to get used to 3, 4, 5 losses in a season could still be a pretty darn good season. I think you'll start seeing that next year and continue on. But having these undefeated teams year in, year out, I think is going to be very hard. I truly believe that there's going to be a 3 or 4 loss team in the next couple of years in the playoffs.
Do you think we get expansion?
I don't know. Part of me says that would be great, because I think it would loosen the reins a little bit on the expectations, because it would allow more schools to play. But I don't know. I think there's been so much change so fast. I think they're going to be a little bit slower to pull the trigger on this, just like the fifth year that everyone thought they were going to vote on and so forth. They're saying, no, we're not going to do that right now. I think they're trying to go as a little bit slower than maybe the fans want, but I think it's kind of smart to not do something too quick.
I think, don't they have the December 1st deadline to decide on next year, if I remember correctly? I know we don't talk about it as much now that the season's actually started, but I'm pretty sure it's within like the next month or so, they have to make a decision.
I think it is coming up. I did have an actual question, Jeremy, just because that one just popped up. With the other sports, with men's basketball and baseball, both those programs coming off of disappointing seasons and stuff, and we know football gets most of the money and revenue sharing and whatnot. But with those programs, it seems like there's been much more of a investment to make sure they're getting better talent on the field. Like, look at those rosters completely turned over. What kind of role does NIL play in being able to get that much roster turnover and bring in the talented players that they have in both sports?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does make a difference. I mean, on the women's side, I mean, Coach Staley's an amazing coach, and she has a really good product to sell these recruits. But I do know that NIL does play a role in women's basketball. But for men's basketball specifically, it's a huge factor. We were able to flip the roster because Coach Paris had what he needed to be successful from an NIL perspective. And going into next year, they will participate in the revenue sharing, and they will be in the same situation as football, where they'll need to find money above that cap, so to speak, that they can continue to recruit the strong players that they seem to have gotten out of the portal this year. I mean, you saw in Greenville, I only had to watch it on my phone via the stats, but I was talking to some of the players yesterday, and they're hungry.
There's a
really
buzz,
hungry.
man.
Yeah,
there's a buzz.
What do you, Jack? Tell us a little bit. I mean, you were there, and I was just following it via, like you said, Jeremy, the stats. I was following it via, a few social media clips, clips that the media took. Seems like, if nothing else, a fun team.
Yeah, I agree. I wish there was a broadcast for this game, because I had people in my Twitter comments saying like, "Oh, live stream the game and stuff," and I don't know how that would have gone over. But yeah, man, they look better. They do. They got more shooters this season. I think, as Jeremy kind of mentioned, there's a hunger on this team, and you brought guys like Michi Johnson back. Eli Ellis waited a long time for him to hit campus. Here he is finally, after 2 years after committing, and he looks like the real deal so far. The one thing I think I worry about a little bit is the defense. I think that is something that giving up 88 points is a bit of concern, though you see on the game-winning shot there from Paul McNeil of NC State, pretty good contest on that. The big thing I noticed, and I mean, Jeremy, I'm sure you've spoken to Lamont and guys like that and the players, but it feels like he's got more of his guys that he feels like best fit the system that he wants to put in place. It feels very much like 2 years ago in some ways.
Absolutely. It does feel like 2 years ago in a lot of ways. Again, like I said, there's a hunger there. The locker room is extremely tight from what I understand. The players genuinely really, really get along. They kind of know each other's game a little bit. They seem to just be gelling at a much faster rate than maybe last year's team did. But yeah, I would say this team, from what I've seen, it's been limited. I'll be honest. I can't wait to go next week to watch them play. But it just seems like they fit into what Coach Paris likes to do a lot better.
Well, one of those exciting players, of course, Eli Ellis, who went out there and had a strong performance on Sunday night. He's one of those guys that comes into college with a lot of buzz already, not only from what he does on the court, but also his social media presence, millions or however many hundreds of thousands of followers and all that kind of stuff. From an NIL perspective, how far ahead of the curve is he than some of these guys that maybe have been around college for a couple of years, and what kind of interest is already going around him before he's ever played an actual game?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, he has, I think, 1.3 million followers on TikTok. His Instagram's getting, I think, close to 1 million. I could be off by a few. But regardless, he's built a huge social presence, and that's exactly what businesses are looking for. They want to partner with athletes that have that big social presence, because they know that when they post something, their fans, their followers are going to go buy that product and so forth. And I've seen had a lot of phone calls, and we're just finalizing one right now with a company here in Columbia that's looking to do some stuff with Eli. But he's by far way ahead of the curve on this. I kind of feel like he's got the potential to be kind of what Livy Dunn was for LSU when she was there. Is such a big social presence. It's just going to just bring tons and tons of brands to him.
We'll continue the conversation with Jeremy Smith as the Garnet Trust Hour rolls along here on your Tuesday, presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating on the Game.
All right, if you're looking for someone to come out to your home and help make your home into a smart home, if you got any audio-visual projects at your house that you either need help with or have been thinking about for a while, tricking out that man cave, having a really cool outdoor space out there by your fire pit as the seasons have changed, reach out to our friends over at Integrated Media. Michael, Nathan, the team at Integrated Media have done a great job. Another company that's been to my home and helped me out with some things personally. They've done the same for Wes Mitchell here on the program, too. If you're having trouble with your internet out at your home, want to make sure it's running faster, want to eliminate any of those dead spots, they can help you do that, too. They can help you with the very best equipment that you can source directly from them. You don't have to go to the big box stores. You don't have to have poor customer service. You don't have to browse the thousands of options online. They can do it for you. IntegratedMediaInc.com, or give Michael, Nathan, and their helpful team a call, 803-948-8327, Integrated Media.
Welcome back in. Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler, Chris, Jack, Jeremy Smith hanging out with us here from the Garnet Trust for a few more minutes. Reminder, Coach Beamer's presser coming up today at 1 o'clock, which you can listen to during the halftime show as he gives some final thoughts in Alabama and looks ahead to Ole Miss this upcoming weekend. Again, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, not exactly the most fun season in the world, but Jeremy, your wife, you're busy round the clock no matter what sports are happening or not happening. What's the latest with what's going on with Garnet Trust, and what are some things people need to know?
Yeah, again, businesses, if you're out there and you're listening, please contact us at info@garnettrust.com. We'd love to talk to you about a portfolio of opportunities to partner with companies that you're already doing business with, whether it be, like I said earlier, credit card processing or payroll. Even down to concrete management for parking lots. But there's so many different businesses that we're partnered with, and again, they by partnering with them, they will give us a percentage of the revenue they make from you and your business, and give that back to us. But the best part about it is, in a lot of these situations, this actually will save your company money. There was a car dealer in another state that just did a credit card processing that changed who they were using, and it saved them $400,000 a year. And then it turned around and was able to give a percentage of the processing fees from them back to the collective. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. Again, we just need to get the message out there. Again, continue to educate. It has to be above the cap. We have to do deals with businesses. And this is a great way to do that and partner with us or be a part of our business membership program. We are about to launch a new website, Gamecock Business Directory, and hopefully we'll promote all businesses to go and shop where Gamecocks are helping in the NIL space.
Let's zoom out to kind of nationally. So what are your latest thoughts on just the NIL ecosystem as a whole for, since the beginning of this thing in 2021, there's been talk about, some type of bargaining. Of course, it couldn't be traditional collective bargaining because of a lot of different reasons. It would have to be some new type of structure, but that, a congressional bill, I know that the SCORE Act and some other act with another acronym that I can't remember right now. SAFE. Yes, has to start with an S and has to be an acronym.
Of course.
Those have been going around. Like, what's the latest on all that? Is there any, I don't even know if it's a good solution, so I don't hesitate to say hope, but is there any thought, I guess, that any of those things might come to fruition?
I don't think so. I think the SCORE has a chance of getting out of Congress. I just think it's dead on arrival when it gets to the Senate, but that's just what I'm hearing from my resources up in D.C. But I think there's some great things in all those bills. I just don't think it's where these bills need to be as a whole. They're good starting spots. I don't know why. And again, I'm not a politician. I'm not I don't write law or whatnot, but I don't know why they can't do this in small chunks, why they have to do it all at once, especially when it comes to the agents, right? There needs to be an agent registry. There needs to be a hold on these agents to make sure that they are doing the right thing to these student athletes. There's a lot of really good agencies out there, but there's a lot of really bad ones too, and we need to definitely get a hold of that very fast. I think once we get a hold of that, I think you'll start to see these numbers change a little bit on the amount of money that some of these athletes want.
Is it sorry, Jack?
No, go ahead.
Not to be quick follow up on that, and not to be pessimistic on this, but a lot of the guardrails, that's the big word everybody uses, that have been attempted to be put in without federal legislation, without both sides having some type of agreement, those sides being athletes and institutions or the NCAA or whatever. Seems like a lot of those efforts have been for naught because we don't have a structure. It just goes to the courts, who are generally ruling in favor of athletes right now, or people just go around them.
Right.
The CSC, I'll just go around it. Who cares? So with things like bad actors like agents, even if we had an agent registry, what's to prevent an athlete from still finding an agent who's maybe performing, for them, or they think they're performing for them? But you get what I'm getting at? Like, how can we, without a structure, how can we do any of these things?
Well, if they're not on the agent registry, then a school couldn't work with the agent. So in other words, when it comes
for rev share,
yeah. That's ultimately what it does. It forces these guys out. Let's be honest. I mean, you have to register, and every agency has to register in a state that they have clients. And for some of these guys that are just coming up out of law school that want to be an agent and so forth, I'm guarantee you that they're not registered in all the states that they have. They have clients because they can't afford it. So, I mean, again, if there was rules put into place, in my opinion, I think with the agents, I think we would see ourselves in a much better spot overall. But again, I don't write law. I don't know what gets put into bills, here or there. But I do think if they could start small, things would start to change.
Let's bring the scale down a little bit more back to South Carolina for a second. I think you talked about a little bit in the first segment, Jeremy. The fan base is frustrated right now, right? They, some of them obviously donate their money to, NIL, so you guys are able to get the players that you want, have the things that make this program what it is. But I'm sure a lot of them feel frustrated right now with, why would I donate my money when things aren't going well right now? And that's just kind of what happens sometimes, because not every team is going to be 12-0 and heading to the college football playoff. What would your message be to those frustrated fans right now that do donate their money and feel like they're just not getting the return on investment?
Yeah, well, I'm frustrated. So I think they have every right to be frustrated. We want to see this university succeed in not only in football, but all sports. And when we're not doing that, I can completely understand somebody wanting to stop to give. Hopefully those folks who stop, it's temporary. And once their things settle down a little bit, they understand that without money, we can't attract the right athletes on campus here. So by not giving money until we start winning, that doesn't really seem to work that well, because without money, you can't win. And again, I'm not asking, and telling people that they need to be given all their hard-earned personal money. I think it's a small part of this. I really think we're shifting to the business side of things and finding those businesses that want to partner with us. That's the sustainable model here. But I get it. I get it when people get frustrated because we didn't win a game and so forth. But hopefully over time, if they were giving $10 a month, hopefully they come back and help us out. Because again, the money that we get, the low dollar amount of money that we get, does help us maximize the payments to the athletes by helping out with our operating costs, et cetera.
Yeah, and I think there's also like a baseline, kind of a necessary. This has to be done to compete. If there's not a you got rev share, and that's not going away. That's going to be here for any coach, any administration. But I feel like if it stops, like if fan support stops, and when I say fan support, that means NIL, that means going to games, that means everything. Even for us, Jack, like at Gamecock Central, people, we don't want that to dry up either.
No.
There is like a vote with their wallet element. Like I get that.
Yep.
But if it all goes away, like especially nowadays, you can put yourself in a hole, right?
Big hole.
Big time from a roster standpoint.
Yes. Absolutely. No, I mean, you can, as quickly as you can flip a roster, you could just as quickly lose a roster. And we're getting to the point now where we're starting to look at 2026. The school's starting to work with all the different sports to try to figure out how that money is going to be spent. And again, there's got to be money above the cap, and if that money is not there, then we will not be able to retain or recruit, whether it be high school or the portal, very well. And what we're seeing, on the field, unfortunately, so far this year, that will continue to be a trend, and it's just where college sports is now. You might not like it. I don't like everything about it by all means, but it is where we are. And if you want to see a winning product, we got to figure out ways to raise money above the cap.
And again, for anybody that wants to get involved, if they haven't already, what do they need to do to be involved with the Garnet Trust?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to garnettrust.com. On there, you can either reach out to us as a business and become a business partner, or you can be an individual giver to our low-dollar monthly membership, where you get access to athletes and memorabilia and events that we put on with the athletes. So as a thank you for all that you guys do for us. But definitely go to garnettrust.com, and if you need to email us, info@garnettrust.com, and I'll make sure to get back to you ASAP with any questions you might have.
Well, Jeremy, good stuff as always. Appreciate you hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating here on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler Head, Chris Clark, Jack Felcher hanging out with you on our Tuesday. Again, thanks to Jeremy Smith from Garnet Trust for coming in here and giving us the latest on everything going on with Garnet Trust. As, again, unfortunately, not a fun season, but always still need those resources to continue to build and hopefully make next season a better one. Speaking of money, by the way, the Lower Lisa Special Teams Contest rolls on to another game. $700 in the pot. If you go online to 1075thegame.com, register if you've not already. And if the Gamecocks score a special teams touchdown this weekend against Ole Miss, you can win all that money come next week. Again, the Lower Lisa Special Teams Touchdown Contest. Time for the oddities of college football. Weird things that happened across the sport over week number 9. Are you guys aware of the phenomenon of the shirtless section? Because it's growing bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. We talked about Oklahoma State, which last week they went from a shirtless section to the banana section, which I hadn't figured out. But the shirtless section is sweeping the nation.
I feel like we've seen it now. I feel like I saw it a few times at different schools this weekend. So it's a trend that's picking up, huh?
They did it at Oregon. The Duck even participated, which I guess the Duck was just naked at that point. Washington State had a very strong one. But here's the thing, for me. It doesn't hit the same when your team's not terrible. Because the beauty of Oklahoma State was you had these passionate fans supporting a really, really bad team. Like, there was a charm to that. Like, Wazoo's 3-4, I guess 4-4 now after beating Toledo. Like, okay, but it doesn't quite hit the same to me.
I saw Indiana did it, right?
Did Indiana? Even worse. It's like, okay, you're Indiana. You're supposed to. You're good. This isn't like a, this isn't a special.
Kurt Cignetti just ruining all the fun too, because you had UCLA, who's been like the Cinderella story,
sure,
fun story. I certainly didn't pick UCLA to win, but you're like, ooh, could this be a little intriguing game? No, 56-6. No.
I thought deep down maybe the trend would continue, but at some point the it has to turn into a pumpkin, right? So that's the analogy there.
Do we think, and I'm glad you brought up the Indiana game, because once again there's a shot of Cignetti late in the game when they're leading by like 49 points, and he just looks angry.
Yes.
Like, I almost feel like it's a bit now. Like, I do believe he's a hard-nosed coach that goes all the way to the end, much like Saban. But, like, it almost feels like every game he makes it a point to just have this one disgusted look on his face at a very, like, non-consequential time of the game, because it happens every single week, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but I think with him, you like seeing this from coaches, and I think this gets fans fired up, is they demand greatness, demand excellence. And you always see the clips of Nick Saban freaking out when it's like 42-0, and he's that one clip from like the national championship in 2012, Alabama's up by so much, and he's just losing his mind. And not to say that Kurt Cignetti's that type of coach, but again, there's a reason why they're as successful as they are, in that they're not, just accepting the results they have right now. They want more.
Yeah, I mean, Cignetti worked for Saban,
Yep.
So he kind of, and I think, so his dad was Frank Cignetti, right? I think passed away a few years ago. I don't remember much about him. I kind of feel like he was kind of a hard-nosed type of guy, too. So I think he's had a few people rub off. Plus, he's just like that. That's just kind of got kind of a more, very confident, very, brash isn't the right word, but very confident and very demanding, and obviously his results show.
Yeah, I give him credit. It's working, and
he wins.
God, they might be playing for a national championship this year.
Crazy.
Which is insane thing to talk about. Continuing on with the oddities, we almost had a crazy ending to it would have at least sent the game to overtime with Missouri and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt leading 17-10 after a late touchdown by Diego Pavia. Missouri gets the ball to midfield. Matt Zollers, the third-string quarterback, by the way, because Bo Pribula got injured, and, of course, Sam Horn was hurt in the first game, launches a Hail Mary on the last play of the game, caught by Kevin Coleman at the 1-yard line. 1 yard short of maybe forcing overtime, and who knows what happens at that point in time. And it wasn't even, disputable. It was like, maybe he got in. No, he was a full yard short. And that stinks. That stinks.
They talk about being a game of inches. That's one right there. That is I was watching that. That was a tough tough break for Missouri, who, their season's not over. I mean, Eli Drinkwitz said they're probably not competing for an SEC championship at this point, but they're damn sure competing for a spot in the college football playoff at this point. So, but I don't know about with that schedule though, because I think they've kind of squandered their golden opportunities to win the big games that would help them get to the playoff.
God, and I had seen this play. I'm looking at it again as we're talking. That's about as close as you can get
without getting in.
His body's in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's over the line. The ball's not.
Nope.
Which is what?
Ball's got to break the plane.
Great catch. Great play.
Mm-hmm.
He's got his heels past the goal line. I mean, he needed to back up. I mean, he's got a guy literally on his back and another jumping over him. So hard for, but I mean, back up 6 inches, that's a touchdown. Crazy.
I know.
That is an oddity.
It is an oddity. I have to ask, are you both familiar with the Greg Jennings Madden meme from years ago with the injured leg touchdown?
I am not.
No. How have I missed this?
So it was a viral video. This was like 10 plus years ago of a guy playing Madden with the Packers and throws the ball to Greg Jennings, who has like a breakaway, but gets injured on the play. So for like the last 30 yards, he's hobbling to the end.
I'm looking at it now.
Touchdown. And it was a viral thing. The guy's commentary on the video makes it even funnier. Well, on Saturday, NC State playing Pitt, classic ACC matchup. NC State runs a double pass where a wide receiver throws to their tight end, Justin Jolie, who en route to the end zone, I don't know if he pulls a hamstring or what, but at about the 30-yard line, starts hobbling. Still manages to score the touchdown. Extremely reminiscent of what happened to Greg Jennings in that Madden setting in that viral video. And wouldn't you know it, Greg Jennings himself even retweeted it on Saturdays by saying, well, would you look at this?
I'm looking at that one too. Oh, yeah, he pulled up.
Oh,
that must have been a hammy.
Yeah.
He blew out a hammy at about the 30-yard line.
He didn't give up.
Those are the worst.
He had a blocker helping him out. He's trying to get up and celebrate at the end, and he's like, nah, let me just try to get to the sideline.
About the last 25 yards, he's hopping on one leg.
He really is. He's truly hopping.
I mean, A for effort.
Hey, good for him.
Yeah.
Scored.
If you get a chance to watch the Greg Jennings video, the commentary takes it over the top. Like, that's why it became so popular, because of what the dude is saying in the video.
Was that an online game? Like, where
I don't know.
That's when you rage quit.
Oh yeah, if I got beat by that, I'm done.
I did see somebody. It said somebody left your Xbox Live party. I don't know if that's who he was playing, but I would definitely 100% would have rage quit that back in the day.
Yeah, that's like, man, this game's rigged. I can't even
probably
win.
like a 10-year-old who did it too on the other side.
Just spent the other side cussing you out the entire time, because that's what 10-year-olds do on Xbox. But yeah, there's your oddities of college football week number 9 edition. Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, getting back in to the Alabama losses. We put a bow on it on your Tuesday here on the game.
All right, everyone, as we close out the Garnet Trust Hour, let's tell you about our friends over at Classic Roofing. That's classicroofingsc.com. Residential and commercial roofers right here in the Midlands that you can trust. A local, reliable company. Families that live right here in the Midlands, and a GAF certified roofer. Only about 7% of roofers nationwide even have that certification. So you know the guys over at Classic Roofing are going to carefully work on your roof. They can do inspections, installations, replacements, and repairs. They have the necessary skills and technical know-how to deliver outstanding performance and curb appeal to your property, all while staying within your budget and your timeline. Go check them out at classicroofingsc.com. You can even visualize what your new roof may look like using their virtual design tool. You can get a free estimate as well. classicroofingsc.com or 803-590-7870.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler and Chris along with you today. No Wes.
I was waiting to see if you were going to just automatically. I would have.
Yeah, well, I do that sometimes. But he did remind us like 30 minutes ago, hey, I'm not here today. So we'll get him back in here tomorrow. I'm sure important matters. I don't know if that's business or baby related, but regardless, he's out today. So we don't. I don't like to ask you guys what you're doing when you're not out. You know, it's like when people go on vacation, I try not to bother them type things. I'll ask you when you come back, but when you're actually gone, I'm like, go do whatever that is.
Yes.
And we can learn about it later.
Yeah, that's
type
right.
thing. Yesterday, we obviously spent the entire show detailing the loss to Alabama. And as Jack and I did a little bit earlier, now you kind of had an extra day to marinate on it. And you're obviously not going to feel better because you still lost the game and one that was very much in reach against a very good team that you had on the ropes in your own stadium. The fans, we didn't really, I think, get into this on this show yesterday, but I advise the students, please do not tease the field rush until you know for sure that it's going to happen. This is the second time I've seen that happen since I've been here, because you did it against LSU last year with about 5 minutes to go. Obviously didn't win that game. Like the A&M game, you had that in hand, right? Whenever it's like, okay, it's like 5-6 minutes to go. You got her up by multiple scores. You know you're going to win the game. Okay, that's fine. When the game's still in the balance and the clock hasn't hit 0 yet, don't start getting ready to storm the field, because as somebody as superstitious as I am, it's going to go the other way.
Yeah, I looked over at the student section. I'm like, man, what? That's weird, because, I mean, the student section, you couldn't have fit another person in there at the beginning of the game, and I looked. I'm like, man, why'd a bunch of them leave? Like the top and the corners kind of cleared out. Oh, they all
piled into the
they piled down. They had the event staff lined up.
Those poor people.
I know.
I feel bad for them every single time.
It's just like, why are we here?
It's like
we're not gonna.
Because look, you have to have some semblance of security in a stadium to try and keep people at bay. But when thousands of people decide they're going to run onto the field, you're not going to be able to stop them. They get their little chain of people. They link arms or hands or whatever, and they do their best, and I give them credit for that. But that wall of people is not going to be stopped by the yellow shirts.
No, it will not. Other sections, I mean, they started moving down too. I was looking. I mean, I kind of had the same thought. I'm like, it's a little early-ish for this. And then eventually, when Bama scored the 2-point conversion, it was funny. They all started going back up.
Slowly started trickling their way back up.
Guess we'll go back up to our seats now.
Yeah, not until you fully. And honestly, to me, the best field rushes are the ones that are hanging in the balance till the very end, and then you just have the explosion of people storming the field, right? And I get it. Virginia was kind of premeditated on that against Florida State because they were quite literally standing at the edge of the field by the time that game ended. But like the Auburn Iron Bowl, the kick six, right? Nobody knew that game was going to end in that moment, and then it did, and everybody just explodes onto the field. Like, those are the best ones when it just happens in the moment, and then everybody goes. Not this, like, build up to it over a couple minutes, which, again, you're trying your luck with the football gods looking at you saying, oh, you think you're going to storm the field, huh?
Yeah,
I'll show you.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a line there that I think you have to walk. What did you you brought up the kick six, Tyler.
Yeah.
This reminded me. I assume you watched the Auburn-Georgia game with the crazy, who's it, Ricardo Lewis catch.
The prayer Jordan Hare.
On the bounce.
Tipped by future Auburn Tiger Trey Matthews.
That's right.
Yep.
Weird.
Yep. Crazy. We thought it was an inside job.
That's the thought.
It's like,
I'm transferring.
He ends up at Auburn. Was that a work?
What'd you think of that? Aside from the conspiracy theory.
Unbelievable. I mean,
it really
because it was 4th and like 15 or something like that. They had to convert that play. There was no other play after that. Game would have been over. And it's just kind of like you're standing there with your mouth open, like, I can't believe it. And that's where, because I knew Auburn was a tough place to play. But when you had the kick six after that 2 weeks later. That took the, like, Auburn is a house of voodoo type thing to a different level. And again, we've seen crazy things happen in the years since too, where plenty of good teams have gone in there and not played their best game, and Auburn's pulled off upsets. Alabama needed the 4th and 31 a couple years ago to win that game at the very end. That was that was quite a moment for sure.
Auburn's the weirdest football team.
Oh, without a doubt.
In the world.
Yeah, there is something about that area that stadium that's just got voodoo about it. I don't get it. And look, they're a fan base that demands a lot. We talk about these jobs being open. I feel like unless Hugh Freeze just wins every single game from here on out, probably going to be looking for another head coach here in a couple of weeks, which, get in line because everybody else is too. But, man, that's a tough fan base to deal with.
Yeah, I talked to a college coach one time who had the best description I've heard of Auburn. It was just so simple, and it was just, that's a different place now. And that's kind of what, you're like, yeah. But, going off your point you just made, join the line, join everybody else, I do wonder at some point, do some of these schools who are mulling a change, but it's not like we absolutely have to do this or we're going to have a revolt or whatever it may be, do some of them go, do we really want in on this year? I have a feeling we might see that.
I think there's a little bit of, what's the opposite of buyer's remorse if you're firing somebody, but whatever that would be. Because
firer's remorse.
Firer's remorse, I guess, yeah. Because like Penn State, okay, they fired their coach. They're getting ahead of the trend. All right, first big job opening, right? I know Virginia Tech and UCLA had already fired theirs, but Penn State, that's a different level of coaching job. And all right, we're gonna get whoever we want because we're the first ones to do this. Well, then okay, here comes Florida, comes LSU. Florida State may fire their coach. Auburn Kentucky might fire their coach. Where it's like, okay, now you're splitting hairs on what exactly is the best job. And again, it seems like everyone's number one draft pick in Lane Kiffin may not be going anywhere. There's 5 different jobs he's rooming for, and he might just stay in Ole Miss at the end of the day. So it's like, okay, now all these schools are maybe going for their second option. One of these schools, because look, there's going to be 1 or 2 of these schools that nails their hire, and they're successful with it. But one, if not more, of these schools is going to make a bad hire or have to be like, okay, we'll settle for this guy, whoever that may be, coordinator somewhere, G5 coach or something like that. And then they're in the same boat 3 or 4 years from now because, like, well, if we hadn't fired that guy in that cycle, maybe we would have got somebody else. But we were up against it, and we had to take what we could get.
Yeah, or they're going to make a hire that looks good and is universally lauded, and it still doesn't work out.
Sure.
They might get their first choice, and it doesn't work out. But, yeah, I mean, this carousel is just so fascinating. I think, Wisconsin kind of put out their graphical letter from their AD, Chris McIntosh, saying, hey, we're punting on this. It was kind of a punt, but a little stronger than what Florida State said. Florida State, definite punt till the end of the season, might still pull the trigger. Wisconsin looked a little bit more like, hey, we're bringing Luke Fickell back. Luke Fickell, there you go. That was everybody, this is going to be great.
Sure.
This will be awesome. And it has not worked out very well at all, especially this season. It seems like they're more in the camp of let's punt and let's maybe punt till next year, see if we can go, round up some NIL support.
And I think that'd be smart. And look, if you're a Wisconsin fan, that's not what you want to hear because, oh, great, another year of bad football, yippee. But it's like you realize if you fire Luke Fickell, you're maybe like the 6th most desirable job. And who are you getting at that point? You know what I mean? Like you're putting yourself in maybe a worse situation by making not the best hire, for the future benefit of your program. So, yeah, you might have to swallow it and keep Luke Fickell for another year, and then the 26-27 cycle may work out better for you. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's the thing, too. We talked about this a little bit last hour. You can flip a roster, obviously, much more quickly than you can in the past. We saw it here, 2023. Doesn't go well. You're 5-7. There are a lot of different things that led to that result. But what you did know is, all right, we've got to go in here, bring our talent back that we can, and go hit the transfer portal. And South Carolina did that. And then they were able to go out and win 9 games. You look at this year, you returned the 2 guys who were on paper and probably in reality your 2 best players, and you went to go supplement through the portal, and it didn't work out as well as it did the last year, right? So, you can build that into your strategy, the portal, whether it's, hey, we're going to keep our coach, we're going to invest more heavily in NIL, and we're going to get this thing turned around. And that is an actual strategy. You can do it, but you can also get yourself in a worse situation if you take the wrong guys. You know, if you miss your evaluations, if you have injuries, whatever it may be, you know, the portal giveth and the portal taketh. And so it is a way that you can very quickly turn around your roster, but it's not, you know, you hear people sometimes using that as this is the solution. Oh, we'll just go to the portal and we'll nail it. Well, it's not easy to nail.
Yeah.
You know, South Carolina's case study from last year is actually one of the best that we have seen in college football since the portal became a real thing. Like, that is one of the top portal performances that we've seen in terms of the guys you got and the impact they ended up having. But that's, I don't want to say it's more of an outlier, but it's maybe not typical. Like, results aren't typical with what you're getting in the portal there.
Well, look at the best programs in college football right now. Your Ohio States, Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, all those kind of teams. Yeah, they do a pretty good job in the portal.
Yeah.
They also still recruit really well out of high school, too. Like, there's a balance, right? And we've seen the extreme on one end of a Colorado that pretty much does nothing but bring in portal talent, and that's not going too well for Deion right now. And then the other extreme, which is Clemson, that does nothing but high school recruiting at this point with very minimal portal interaction, and it's not going well for them either. So you have to find that balance somewhere in the middle of, okay, we still want portal guys, but we have to have a good base of high school recruiting and not just having to flip over our roster every single year.
Yeah, the Clemson one is very interesting because they brought back most of that team, which it wasn't Dabo Swinney's best team, but they did make the playoff. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And they bring basically all those guys back. You're going to be a year older, a year better. You add some freshman pieces that you feel good about. And they go out and get a couple portal pieces. Interestingly, Will Helt, the Purdue defensive end transfer, probably been their best player on their team.
Sure.
And from what you read up in Clemson now, that this year has not gone well, they're due for more changes. I think there'll be a lot of staff changes up there. Maybe not a lot. There'll be some staff changes. And it seems like their portal strategy this year is going to have to be to take more than a couple guys to supplement. They're going to have to go through and take a heavier look at the roster. So a lot of moving pieces. I think for South Carolina here, locally, there were probably some, you know, there's some adjustments that are going to be made this offseason and how the portal's approached. Because, look, the portal cycle and how things are operating right now is different than they were when South Carolina brought in that class, that 2024 class, or even different from this most recent cycle that brought in the guys that are playing on this team from the portal. So the best teams that are going to thrive are going to be the ones that are able to adjust and kind of stick and move and pivot as things continue to change.
Yeah, it's definitely a wild portal. It's definitely going to be a wild coaching carousel cycle as figure out who's going to take all these top jobs in college football. We'll get back in to South Carolina and Alabama coming up next. Take a look at where this loss ranks in the Beamer era, as well as go back through our buy or sell and see who was right and who was wrong from over the weekend. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Tuesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler and Chris along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Still reflecting back on the weekend and Carolina's 29-22 loss to number 4 Alabama. Scott Davis does a really great job for y'all over at Gamecock Central, and he wrote an article yesterday that caused a lot of stir among the fan base in terms of where this loss ranks all time for Gamecock football, because he's putting it out there as maybe one of the worst ever. And look, he's seen more Carolina football than either one of us seen in our lifetimes up to this point, so he would know better than anyone. And I get the initial reaction, no, this loss, this year was bad or that year or whatever, but I get the point that he's trying to make of how close you were, what that team was, and not that it would have fixed or changed anything about this entire season, because it's still largely a disappointment, but you would have had something to feel good about for the first time really this entire year, because your other 3 wins aren't really anything to hang your hat on, and you let it slip through your fingers there at the very end. That is why this loss stings so much.
Yeah, it's not just a loss of, the context is important, I think Scott made some good points in that piece. Go check it out on Gamecock Central. It's called Sunset on a Season. And, it's so different than a lot of other losses. You got the number 4 team coming in. The season hasn't gone how you've wanted. You've got a chance later in the season than you would have liked to have kind of a season-changing potentially win. Look, you could parity so crazy now in college football. Maybe you win that game, and then you go out and lose your next 3 Power 4 games. That's possible too.
Yeah, sure.
But could a win here have done something to key an unexpected run down the stretch? A run that would still have to include going and beating Ole Miss and Oxford this weekend, going and beating and as of now undefeated Texas A&M team in College Station, beating Coastal, getting a rivalry win over Clemson at home. All those things would still have to happen. But at some point, if you're going to turn around the season, again, later than anybody would have wanted, you have to get that first big signature win, and this would have been one. I mean, this is the type of win that regardless you would have looked back on and said, hey, remember that time?
Yeah.
Remember that time we beat Bama at Williams-Brice? They were a top 5 team. Maybe they end up making the playoff. Who knows? Maybe they end up winning the thing, and you can hang your hat on that win. We still around here, Tyler, it lost a little bit of its luster because of how the season went. 2019, Carolina, Georgia, in Athens. Mm-hmm. People still talk about that.
I was
still a fun day.
I was gonna bring that up, and that game was earlier on in the season. You're only 2-3 at that point in time, so I think a lot of your goals were still ahead of you at that point. But again, even winning that game didn't really change what was still a largely disappointing season. You only won one more game after that. Would winning against Alabama on Saturday have been those same kind of vibes? Again, you're deeper in the year. You know more about what this team is and where you're going or not going compared to where you were, back in October of 2019. But I feel like that would be probably the best comparison is like, hey, I know this isn't the best season, but we still knocked off one of the best teams in college football. And at the end of the day, because Georgia didn't make the playoff that year, had they gone into the SEC championship game undefeated, lost to LSU, could have theoretically made it as a one-loss team. That loss ultimately derailed the ability to make the playoff. We don't know what's going to happen with Alabama in the next handful of weeks, but you could have been in a position as well to maybe ruin their playoff chances if they find another loss along the way or something along those lines. So it would have been kind of similar vibes if you would have won that game to what happened in 2019 against Georgia.
Yeah, I think there's some other losses that sting more. Like, for me, I still think the LSU game last year stings more because you can pick out the Alabama game too, for sure. I think because of how the game went on many fronts, the LSU one is one you pick out, not just because a team came in at home ranked, they're playing from behind 17-0, and they end up winning. Obviously, all the officiating shenanigans. But that's the game that everybody points to out of the 3 losses last year. Everybody goes, that's the one that kept you out of the playoff. You could pick Alabama. That was a weird game at the end.
Sure.
The odds there were so, I mean, it was such a bizarre end. The LSU one seemed even more controllable, even with all the officiating stuff, and you lost. You know, you think about some of the losses that ultimately, if you're South Carolina, kept you from playing in Atlanta again in the pre-college football playoff days. Carolina makes it in 2010. In 11, 12, and 13, they had really good teams. I think the 2012 South Carolina team was the best team in school history. Didn't get to go play for an SEC championship. If they did, probably a good chance they're playing for a national championship, which is crazy to think about. Changed the entire course of history here in Columbia. Those teams are still really good. They did some really good things. But you think about 2012, actually, LSU, 2-point loss at night in Baton Rouge. A 44-11 inexplicable loss down in Florida to Will Muschamp's Florida Gators. You think about the any Gamecock fan will know what I'm talking about here. The Tennessee game under Steve Spurrier, the Marquez North one-hand catch down the field. You lose to a Tennessee team that's not very good. That keeps you out of Atlanta. Those, I think, are just my opinion. I enjoyed Scott's piece very much.
Yeah.
Just my opinion. I think those are tougher to swallow because of the stakes. You know, what ended up happening throughout the course of the year. This team this year, even if they beat Bama, even if they beat everybody else on their schedule, they're not making the college football playoff.
No.
Unfortunately. Still could have been an awesome, memorable moment, whether it eventually keyed a run for you or it was just kind of a really cool blip on a tough season's radar.
Well, I think we could have looked at that as the potential of a spark of something. Now, again, you're not playing for as much as you were a year ago where you thought you had a shot at the college ball playoff. You're right now playing for bowl eligibility. Winning that game would have gotten you a step closer because then you've only needed to win 2 out of your last 4 games as opposed to 3 out of your last 4. But still, you thought, okay, if you beat Alabama, then say, I don't know, maybe you split A&M and Ole Miss and beat the last 2 teams, then you salvage a better season than you thought you were going to have, and who knows what that means carrying over into 26 and beyond. You thought Saturday could have been like a spark point for something. Unfortunately, you come up short, and we don't really know in that regard. Now, again, you played better, especially offensively, so maybe that's a sign as you go through these last 4 games that you're going to be better in that area, and you have a better chance against some of those tougher teams. But, it would have been a game, regardless of how the season finished, that people would have remembered for a long time because of the stakes and what Alabama was. But now it's just kind of this tougher pill to swallow because of how close you were. And, again, you once again had a lead in the 4th quarter. And when it came down to the very critical moments at the end, and give credit to Alabama, because good teams do that, they found a way to win, and you didn't.
Yeah, they did. And I think, really, Tyler, you point out they played better on offense. I agree with that. I thought defensively, yeah, you had some, especially that last Bama drive that ended up tying it. You gave up some plays, sure, but remember this context, again, very hot Bama team offensively with a guy who's up there in the Heisman Trophy, deservedly so. Projections and Ty Simpson, just a loaded team. And I thought Clayton White's defense played a heck of a game, like valiant effort. But, again, you're just left with like a few plays here and there is the difference between success and failure, between winning and losing. So a step in the right direction, but you didn't get it done. And, you're kind of sitting here going, man, you would have liked for that type of performance to be what we saw, despite the loss, that type of competitive performance in all phases of the game. You would have liked to see that earlier in the season. It kind of makes you wonder, hey, what would these results be like? Could this team be sitting here, 5-3, 6-2,
sure,
maybe? I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, if that game happens in week number 3, we feel a whole heck of a lot better going forward as opposed to week number 8 going into or your 9th game of the season saying, okay, well, now we kind of know what this team is, and you're having to go face even tougher competition in the next 2 weeks on the road at that. So, tough one to swallow, but go read Scott's article on Gamecock Central about where he believes this loss sits in all of Gamecock football history. We'll recap our buy or sell, who was right, who was wrong, and who has the new lead in our show standings. With that coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Tuesday on the Game. right, welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler and Chris along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Again, Coach Beamer speaking in about 90 minutes for his usual Tuesday press conference you can listen to during the halftime show with myself and Bill Gunner. So as we kind of put a lid on the Alabama game over the weekend, it's time to recap buy or sell. Now, this was a 4-person buy or sell because our guy Kevin Miller was also involved with this, though he's not in our overall standings, but I'll let you know how he did as well. The question, number 1, was no pre-snap penalties the week prior. I set the line once again at 1.5. You could buy the under or sell the over. 3 of us bought. Kevin was the only one to sell. Carolina, only 1 pre-snap offensive line penalty, though it happened early in the game. And Wes hit the group chat saying, uh-oh, there's one already. No margin for error, and give credit to the offensive line. Now, there were a lot of holding calls. That's a different problem. But pre-snap penalties, once again, good for 2 weeks in a row.
One of those holding calls was pretty bad.
It was, yeah.
And consequential because Lenore Sellers is heading for the pylon. They end up having to settle for a field goal.
We talked to John Strickland yesterday on the halftime show, and he did agree that was a very bad call.
Very ticky-tack.
Yeah, and again, that's not the reason you lost the game. There's a lot of factors that went into it, but that didn't help.
All I know is the game's tied at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And Carolina went from 7 points, well, at least 6 points, to 3.
Yeah.
Seems like it might have made a difference there.
See, I'm one of those people, I go butterfly effect, because if you change one thing, then everything else changes after that. So you can't say definitively for sure. That would have helped out a lot, no doubt. But that's certainly a moment that you wish could have gone a little bit differently. So we got that right. Kevin was the only one that sold on that, thinking there was going to be more than 1 pre-snap offensive line penalty. Alabama had only allowed 2.5 red zone trips per game this season. Could buy the over or sell the under at 2.5. We all bought. We were all correct.
Let's go.
South Carolina, 3 trips into Alabama's red zone on Saturday.
Nice.
So that's
Good so
progress,
far.
Considering the fact that against LSU you had none. Oklahoma you had 2. So I guess technically you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, that's just another point. Like, you go back and look at not only the eye test, but like just statistically in the game. And it wasn't like it was fun. You know, you didn't score 40 points. Nobody's sitting here saying, God, that was just an incredible offensive performance. But it was better than it had been. You know, you miss a field goal at one point, decide to go for it on the 4th down. You don't go for it on another 4th down. But you look at, you know, and the rushing totals weren't great for the running backs, but you were able to run the ball some. You possessed the ball. You beat Bama in the time of possession. You outgained them overall. I realize, well, they still lost the game. I get that. I'm not arguing otherwise. But offensively, there were, you know, some good. You hit some explosive plays. You hit the explosive touchdown to Nick Harbor. You got Sellers more involved in the run game. Better, you know, overall. Just not enough.
Yeah. So again, that's something that's at least kind of trending in the right direction. Question number 3, Alabama only turned the ball over 3 times on the season, though each of those came in the prior 3 games. South Carolina, second most takeaways coming in. They'd be able to force multiple turnovers against Alabama. Kevin was the only one to buy it, and Kevin was correct. You had the forced fumble by Bakari Swain on the corner blitz, and then you had the muffed punt, which essentially kind of acted like a long pass for Carolina, which set up that last touchdown in the early 4th quarter.
Yeah, did not see that coming at all. Either of those, really. I mean, I thought 1 turnover was possible, but Ty Simpson's been so good at taking care of the football. Coming into the game, he had only had the 1 pick. Carolina's able to force the fumble. That was a huge play. And then Nick Harbor, just a great alert play on the punt that's bouncing for many yards. Kind of gets a guy, just like you teach it, gets a guy into it, recovers it. Dead at the spot. I mean, just a great play, and those are two big ones. And then obviously Carolina had a couple that were huge plays. You know, Bama,
sure,
7 of their points are off of a turnover on the pick 6 early in the game, and then they ended up getting the fumble at the end of the game to prevent Carolina from going down and trying to win the game on offense at the end.
That also puts more perspective on how good of a job the defense did on Saturday, because 7 of those points, not on defense, because that was a defensive score by Alabama. And then their last touchdown, they were set up on a short field, and you let them into the end zone. You could have theoretically stopped them and maybe held them to a field goal there if South Carolina was trying to prevent them from getting in the end zone at that point in time. And again, that makes that doesn't make you feel any better about the loss, but it's like, man, defense really played their guts out. We talked about it yesterday, went through a list of guys, and I mentioned Swain with that forced fumble. He was all over the place in coverage. Kilgore had that great knockaway there in the fourth quarter on what would have been an explosive touchdown. I think they're trying to get that to Bernard and the guys up front, and Nick Barrett was living in Alabama's backfield, and Montel Goodwine had some good tackles for losses. Brian Thomas Jr., Dylan Stewart getting effects off the edge, like all around best defensive performance of the entire season by far.
Yeah, if you would have said going into the game, hey, late in the fourth quarter, Bama's going to have 15 points on offense. I mean, what you feel pretty darn good about that, and then you have to add the context. Okay, well, you gave up a pick six, and you missed a field goal, and all those other things that ended up leading to Carolina losing. But certainly a really promising performance, a really good performance by the defense against an offense that's been really good.
Question number 4, Carolina would attempt an onside kick at some point. They did squib one kick, which doesn't count. I, unfortunately, was the only one that bought that. I thought you were going to have to go into your bag of tricks on special teams. No fakes, nothing like that. Did get the turnover, obviously, on the punt there, but no onside kick attempt by South Carolina.
Yep.
So
you thought they were just going to randomly come out and let's try to steal a possession here?
I thought it'd be a situation like, hey, maybe you're down by, 10 at halftime, trying to steal possession, and you come out of the second half and do the Sean Payton thing and onside kick the first kick and say, hey, you know what? We're being aggressive. It doesn't work, but we're going to try it. But it was good that you weren't in position to have to do that. But, yeah, obviously I was wrong on that one. And last question here. Last week, 3 non-running backs got carries for South Carolina. The question was, would they be able to at least tie that number this week? The answer was no, as 4 ball carriers, Sellers, Matt Fuller, Rasul Faison, Oscar Attaway, obviously the latter 3 of those being running backs. You both sold on it. I bought it, so you guys both got the points on that.
I think you didn't have your best week, Tyler, which I'm not saying that I've had plenty of bad weeks.
Well, that has caused quite a shakeup because Wes is now still at the top, is now back at the top with 26. You're in second with 25, and I'm in third with 24.
Ooh.
We're separated by 1 point each.
Okay. Tight race.
Tight race. Kevin Miller got 2. He got 3 right.
Okay, so it's 26 to 25 to 2.
26, 25, 24 to 3.
To 3, okay.
Yes.
All right, Kevin's got some catching up.
Got some catching up.
Maybe if we let him play more, he could have an opportunity.
Yeah, but so there's your buy or sell from the weekend. And Wes will be happy to know when he comes back tomorrow that he's now sitting atop the standings. We'll continue to talk a little bit more about LSU and Brian Kelly and the details that have emerged in the day since he was fired on Sunday. We'll get into that coming up next to wrap up the hour. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Tuesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler and Chris along with you, wrapping up the show here on your Tuesday on the game. Of course, another week's gone by, and another major head coach firing has happened in college football. This time, Brian Kelly relieved of his duties after an embarrassing loss at home on Saturday in Death Valley, 49-24 to the number 3 Texas A&M Aggies. But it wasn't just losing to a team like that. It was getting physically manhandled in the second half of that game. Your entire fan base basically emptying out the stadium, and A&M just rubbing your face in the dirt for the majority of that game. And Brian Kelly was crashing out on the sidelines, threatening his assistant coaches. If you read some of the stories coming out of the weekend, it was a very tense Sunday in Baton Rouge that ultimately led to him being fired. And not that I'm shocked by it, but I have been interested in reading like The Athletic, Yahoo Sports, these places that put out some of the details of what the Brian Kelly era of LSU was like. I'm not really shocked by some of the things that I've read about how he handled his staff, how he handled his players, how he went about the business of being the head coach that was supposed to, once again, lead LSU to the national championship. And obviously that's not going to happen now.
Yeah, it was kind of ironic. I saw that clip circulating, and some poor special teams analyst that was on the sideline. I didn't catch all the lip reading, but you could see Brian Kelly, after A&M ran a punt back for, a touchdown, I think, had a huge punt return, and that's going to cost you your explicit job. He's the one out. Did you see the story that came out today from, I think it was John Talty put out a story where in an Ullman, when Brian Kelly went into the office, his thumbprint didn't work before he got fired.
I did not.
So that was kind of like an omen. He had to get some people to get him into the building, and then, I think later that night it literally probably didn't work.
Yeah, I was going to say he was out of the system by then.
Because he was out. There's a lot going around, and I think before all this, and now more people have kind of spoken out. I mean, we saw it in that Netflix series that came out. You had Brian Kelly. You're watching his interactions. You're watching his practice. And then you got Shane Beamer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like these guys could not be more different, you know? And I think that stuff matters. And there's been a lot of arguments on fit. Was Brian Kelly a good fit for the LSU job? And some people took the camp of he's not, and that really matters, especially at LSU. Some people said that doesn't matter. Nick Saban was not from Louisiana. He didn't have ties there. He just came in and he won, which he did. Ed Orgeron was probably the best, quote-unquote, fit. Les Miles, same thing as Saban, similar, right? Not, is it kind of a weird fit? I can see both sides of that. But I think the parts that mattered about the fit, and I'm not just talking about Brian Kelly saying family or whatever.
It didn't get off to a good start.
I think it was more of not having an understanding of that place and understanding what it takes to win at that place. Your plan at Notre Dame cannot be the same at LSU. A lot of people that I trust who followed their recruiting out there said he was behind early on NIL. He wasn't as involved as the head coach in recruiting. He leaned too much on his assistants for it. Didn't understand how to recruit New Orleans, which is very expensive, very
good hotbed.
Good hotbed. And this has gone around too, deciding to dismiss some assistants that were beloved there, hiring 2 of them back, in Blake Baker and Corey Raymond, but dismissing Tommy Moffitt, who, by the way, went to Texas A&M and has outscored you in the fourth quarter the past 2 years, 60-6.
Yeah, I think he took that one personally.
He did. Put a tackling dummy with Brian Kelly's face on. I think it was just a lot of the moves that maybe because he didn't understand the job and wasn't as good of a fit ultimately led to his demise there.
Terry used the word mercenary when we were talking about this yesterday, and I think that's a really good word to use there. And again, Brian Kelly, what he did at Central Michigan and Cincinnati and Notre Dame obviously speaks for itself. And he was a guy that did take Notre Dame all the way to the national championship and left for LSU because he thought he was going to have what he needed to get himself over the hump and finally take home, that trophy. Obviously, they never came close to really doing that. But the way he came into it, handled himself, again, how he dealt with staff, assistants. There were reports and stories out there about him not even talking to people before they were getting hired and not speaking to people within the walls of the own building unless, they were somebody that was important to him and their role in the football team. And when it came down to everything blowing up like it did on Saturday, from what you read about the meeting that went down about the future of the program, nobody was there to come to bat for him. Nobody said, hey, you know what? Brian Kelly is my guy. I want him to stick around, want to work for him. Nobody. No assistant coaches, nothing. And it didn't seem like the players were all that torn up about it. And look, whenever a coach gets fired, look at Billy Napier from a couple weeks ago. Yeah, he wasn't winning enough at Florida, and that's why he ultimately got canned, but he seemed like a good dude, right? And even him getting fired, you see a lot of former players and former assistants like, man, I love Billy, and he did this for me and that for me. I've seen none of that with Brian Kelly. In fact, I saw some host somewhere said, hey, any former player out there, can anybody tell me a good thing about Brian Kelly? And to this point, I've seen no response. Like, nobody has good stuff to say about this guy. He wins, right? He's a good football coach. But outside of that, once you get outside those white lines, that's where Brian Kelly fails. And somebody's going to hire him somewhere if he wants another coaching job. But it just shows you, like, I think those are the things that you need to get yourself over the hump in a lot of places. And he couldn't do that at LSU.
Yeah, the way you treat people matters and can buy you time. It can. If Brian Kelly was a different type of dude, maybe he's got more people in the administration, more players, coming to your defense, and those things matter. Right now, if you're weighing this, if you're balancing it out, if you're LSU's administration, if you're apparently the state of Louisiana governor's been very involved in this, you're balancing the results, what fans think, what fans want versus whatever else, which may be your players, your coaches, and the scales were tipped way in the favor of making a change. There's been some stuff reported that maybe Kelly wasn't ready to make as many changes as people thought he should. I don't know if that's true or not. But as they continue to get into this thing, they were like, it's just over.
Right.
And when you kind of look at how things are going, it makes sense.
It absolutely does. And again, it's going to be interesting to see where LSU goes now and see who can be that fit. Because, like, Nick Saban and LSU and Les Miles, yeah, they weren't as Louisiana born and bred as Ed Orgeron was, but they also understood, hey, here's what I have to do to embrace and be embraced here in Baton Rouge. And they did enough, and obviously were successful because of it. Brian Kelly didn't want to do that and learned that lesson the hard way. And he's getting paid a lot of money to go away, but he wants to coach. He doesn't want that to be the end of his coaching tenure in college football, and we'll see who decides to hire him now.
Who do you think it's going to be?
I don't know. Maybe like UCLA.
They're probably going for Lane. I'm talking about LSU.
Yeah. Oh, everybody's going for Lane.
Everybody's going.
I just don't think he's going to take any of the jobs.
That'll be fascinating.
I wouldn't. That'd be funny if he didn't, because then everybody's like, "Oh crap, Plan B."
What are we going to do?
Yeah. Well, that'll be fun to follow as time goes along. That'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs halftime show. Myself, Bill Gunner, coming up next as your Tuesday rolls along here on the game.